Hi there, this is Michael, and this is Ever Better Mind, where I talk about positive, practical, and punchy strategies to help improve your day to day mental health, because I believe every positive step you take matters. Sadly, depression and anxiety are challenges that a lot of us will face or do face. And they're definitely challenges that should be supported with mental health advice and other and professionals. But if you're like me, you want to come at those kind of problems with um, holistically, making sure that you're doing everything you possibly can to kind of reduce the symptoms. To that end, I actually read an article, a scientific paper that kind of discusses anxiety, depression, and the gut. And the so what of the paper is that there's significant evidence that links anxiety and depression to the microbes that live in your gut. I think a bit of a gotcha moment for me was that 90% of the serotonin being the happy hormone, 90% of the serotonin your brain needs is actually just made in your gut. So I imagine the gut is a little bit like, I guess, when you have a cold, you don't expect your body to perform at its peak. Maybe if your gut isn't performing as well as it should, is there something you can do there to help optimize the link to your brain? So there's four really practical and punchy things that I got out of this paper that I'll be taking into my day to day life that might help you too. So the first thing is that there was a decreased risk of anxiety and depression linked to healthy diets, especially the Japanese diet, the Mediterranean diet, and the Norwegian diet. So those diets are focused on heaps of vegetables, fruits, nuts, grains, seafood, and unsaturated fats. So there you go, something to look into potentially. How can you kind of incorporate the Mediterranean or healthy Japanese diets into your day to day? The second one I found really interesting as well was that fish and omega-3 intake had been linked to a decreased incidence of depression. And even I think there was a trial that suggests that it could help for serious depression as well. So there you go. There's number two. How can you eat a little bit more fish this week, next week? And even me, like I've been considering taking fish oil, but maybe upping my fish oil a little bit more. I take that pretty regularly. So how can you increase your fish oil in your life, basically, which seems like a relatively straightforward and simple thing to do, which is really cool. Another thing which I thought was pretty interesting was that there was a link to to lower consumption of protein with depression, and that a 10% increase in protein consumption actually reduced depression considerably in countries like South Korea and United States, or where those studies were made, which is really interesting. There was a big caveat though, where it wasn't necessarily saying take heaps of red meat all of a sudden. It was kind of more if your protein is low, perhaps bumping out 10% could result in an increase. But those kind of it's better overall to have those kind of healthy diets that we talked about before. But there you go, interesting. Maybe bumping up your protein intake could be another thing to try. And the fourth and kind of final thing, which kind of probably wraps all this up and makes this super practical, perhaps, is that there was evidence that simply taking a probiotic for 1 month reduces negative thinking. And there was another study from the Netherlands that showed that probiotics reduce low mood. Um, that's I love that because it's such a simple, easy thing to do. You can go out to the pharmacy or wherever you get your supplements and try that for a month right now. I love all these things too because they're really practical, and you can kind of start doing them today. I mean, the Mediterranean diet, changing your whole diet might be a bit hard, but how can you bring in a few more nuts, for example, into that? Fish, increase fish. Have another meal of fish this week. Maybe increase your fish oil subs. Maybe is there a way you could improve your protein intake just a little bit, especially if you don't have a heap of protein? And like we said just there, can you go out and get some probiotic subs, start taking those, and see how you feel over the next month? It's all about experimentation, but let's optimize the use of our gut, and it's all science backed. It's really good. I'll make sure to include the link to that in the description. Check it out if you want. But hey, maybe you should try one of those four things and see how you feel. That's it for today.